Welcome, everyone. Welcome to Rethinking Balance Sheets. Every Friday at 10 a.m. GMT plus 8 Malaysia time, we talk about different aspects of the balance sheet. And as an entrepreneur, how it's critical for each and every one of us to understand our balance sheets. And also in this time where it's a very, very tough time for many businesses, how do we really truly go deep into organize our balance sheet accordingly? Joining me, as always, is Ravi Nararatnam, Ravi from Sage Street Capital. Ravi, welcome to the show, and always glad to have you with us. And what's in store for us today? I think we're gonna be treated
Morning,
to,
Roshan.
and so tell us what's in
Okay.
store for us today.
The last time when you say today we've got the Sifu for how.
Okay, looks like we are sort of losing Ravi. Yeah, that's
To
okay.
raise
But
money on lead market. And one of the people who's most experienced guy, Wong Yoke Ngen from Win Advisors, a very senior member of the bank team those days. I think we are very fortunate to have him on board. So if you have probably your capital on the equity side, small business, we've got the Sifu for you today.
All right. So let's bring him on board. I think Ravi's having a bit of problem. Wong Yoke Ngen, welcome to our show. Thank you for being here with us. And I was told that you are sort of the Sifu when it comes to the leap markets and what all that entails, right? And the interesting thing about the leap markets, I think, is that not many people truly understand the leap markets. It's been around for a while. But many people kind of what's a leap? When you talk about especially in Malaysia, you talk about the first board, main board, everybody sort of knows it. But when you talk about and sometimes in the ACE market, people know about the ACE market, but leap not really. So maybe you can share a little bit. Why the purpose behind this market and maybe what's the difference between the main board and the ACE market and this leap market, what exactly that is.
Anyway, thank you very much for having me on board. Seafood, I don't think so. I think it's because of age. Anyway,
But
to talk about the
age is a relative thing, lah, right? So I mean,
I know.
we have 90-year-olds running around, trying to run the country and so on. So I mean, it's so
Okay,
you're young relatively, but that
I
aside, tell
hope
us about the
so.
lead market.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. Just to touch base on lead market, the lead market was actually initiated sometime in 4 or 5 years ago, and they launched it. Primarily, the lead market is viewed as a platform, in my opinion. It's not a market per se. It's meant for companies who wants to get listed, all right, to raise capital, to raise funds, um, and access the lead market. It's not a market that's meant for companies to stay there for 20 years, but for them to grow and subsequently at about 3 years or within the short duration, they will be able to get a transfer or get promoted to the ACE or main markets. Now, what is it? The lead market primarily is a platform, like what I said, is a meeting of minds for investors and investees.
Mm.
For Syndrome Berhad, a private company, you probably do not have much option for investments other than bank loans, right?
Yep.
And you
Yep.
have to go to private equities and all that thing. And there are a lot of people outside there who are deemed as sophisticated investors who wants to invest in equities or investments of sorts. So, and they don't know where to look. So by having a lead market, you are transparent. You have got your financials and your whatever you're doing publicly known, and it's an avenue for investors to come in to actually list, get investments in equities and grow with it. All right. Now, the thing to note is what are the companies that can list on the lead markets? These are companies with growth potential, must be robust.
Yep. Yep.
Okay, and I wouldn't say that it get startups. I would say that for management of risk, it should be brownfields who makes 300,000 profits, 1 million profits, and can see growth in the next few years. So this is to mitigate risk for investors.
Yep.
And for the investee companies, it's different. Once they're there, they learn the traits of governance and what's like to be listed.
Yep.
Okay, if you go straight to ACE or main, you're put in the very deep part of the sea, and you can learn the hard way. So this one is like a training ground for the companies to know what listing is. All right. I will touch a bit about the main and the ACE market as well. The
Yeah.
main market is primarily for the bigger companies. All right, they need to have a track of about 20 million for the 3 to 5 years, but I would say 3 years. Okay, and the latest year must be at least a profit of tax of 6 million ringgit. Okay, and the ACE market does not have requirement for profitability. So there's a bit of contradiction between ACE and LEAP. The question should be asked is that if a LEAP doesn't need profit requirements, why does ACE company, which doesn't have profit requirements, would go that way, right? So, but reality prevails. To list on the ACE market, you must show up profits, okay, of quite a few million, 5-6 million profits of tax. Reason being that the cost of listing on both main and ACE are not cheap. It ranges in 3 to 5 million depending on size, all right? And if I were to and for both ACE and main, you need to have a public spread of 25%, i.e., 25% of your company must be given to public. Okay. If I would take a guy who has got 1 million profit and they go list on the ACE market, yeah, even if I give it 10 PE multiple, it's probably going to be 10 million. If I'm going to pay 3 to 5 million in expenses, it doesn't make sense. So that's why the LEAP market prevails in this instance on that basis. Because in the ACE market, although it's a small cap, you need to have only a minimum of 10% to be given to the public. Yeah, the public here is defined as sophisticated investors, so it's a bit different from both ACE and main.
Yep.
In that sense, for the owner, they can still control the company, still run it, but with proper governance and everything else, and to ensure that the investors are being protected. Okay, and subsequently, when they grow, that's where the plan comes in. They can either get a transfer or promotion to both ACE or main. Okay, and you can then attract more investors because if your profit grows, technically your valuation increases. Yeah. So a point to note is people who comes into the LEAP market, when they get transferred or promoted, that's where the exit strategy comes in for some of the investors. Okay, and they can rest assured whatever performances they have, whatever they do, it's transparent. Yeah, on those bases. What else can I add to that?
I guess a question would be, because with so many things like the ECF, the equity crowdfunding, and whole bunch of other things, right? Competing for the same dollars and competing for the same sort of people, right? I mean, you're looking for that kind of startups with unicorn potential, I guess. How effective is the LEAP market, in general? And maybe you can help us identify sort of companies that would benefit really from a listing in the LEAP market,
Yeah. How does the benefit, is it effective? Well, there are 36 companies listed. So tell me, is it effective? Is
36 companies. So maybe later we can talk about some of these companies. Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
So go ahead. Yeah.
I do not want to talk about the ECF and all these things, but more importantly, I believe the LEAP market is safer and it protects the investors more. The only contention I have is that the LEAP market is restricted to sophisticated investors, whereas the others are open to public.
Yep.
So you're inviting public to invest in something that's even more dangerous versus something that is so transparent. So that's my contention, but we'll leave that to the regulators.
Okay. So there's an investor differentiation lah.
Yes.
So you get a slightly different. So maybe there's an advantage in that, because if you get the sophisticated investors, they can help you on your Series B, Series C, and so on as you grow your organization lah. So there's, I think that's a great benefit to know lah. Okay.
Yeah.
And if you zoom into, if you zoom in into the you talked about some of the companies that were listed, right? Maybe you can share a little bit on some of the stories of companies that have already listed and who they are, and what sort of growth trajectory they have displayed over after the listing in LEAP.
Okay, I would just touch on one or two which WYNCORP has handled, because it's not fair for me to talk about the others.
Definitely, go ahead.
Okay, I'll quote you one company called Baba. They're into agro. It's very very green on that basis. When they got listed, their profitability was only about 2-3 million. But going forward, I believe the profit has doubled, yeah, in a matter of a year plus 2 years. Okay, so as far as I am concerned, these are ideal companies that has taken the advantage of being in the leap, getting exposure, because you need to get exposure, okay, and they have moved forwards to increasing their profitability, and investors have come in early stages, like during the listing. They are now actually benefiting from it. Yeah, so this is one of the companies that I would just quote on. And other companies that have listed on the lead, actually some of them are quite profitable. We've done one this year before Chinese New Year, okay, and it's making a profit of 3-4 million. So if you compare that with some of the existing companies on the Bursa, even Main or A, I think they're slightly better than the others. Okay, I'm just being honest about it. So you can see that there is growth, there is potential, and the opportunity arises for like these companies that they can get transferred or promoted to ACE or Main in the near future. Yeah, the moment they've met all the requirements, they can do that. So I hope that answered the question.
Yeah, yeah,
Maybe
go ahead, Ravi.
yeah, maybe Wong, you just want to share with you that it's this incredible platform, the regulators Bursa and SE have come up with to promote the capital markets and allow people to access funds. And I think we all been in the banking industry one way or another. A few bankers are probably not the hottest at this time. In this market, right? There are businesses that can grow. There are certain segments which are, no to the bankers. Is this an opportunity that they should be looking? Should people be seeking out people like yourselves and see what they can do? If I got a business, it's growing, but the banker says, "Oh, not quite ready." And I think the problem that everybody continues to have is, "Oh, I'm giving up my shares." What would you tell to a promoter, an entrepreneur? I'm diluting myself. What would you say to that?
I would say
versus I can go to a bank.
Yeah, you are diluting 10% minimum. The option to do more or less, or more than 10% is the option of promoters. And you're still managing the company. You're still driving the company. Okay, and for companies who, you see that the leap is primarily for SMEs, smaller companies, right? So if they go to the bank, there'll be a lot of issues that they may not pass through. Okay, in terms of credit evaluation. Not to say they're bad credits, but the banks want big ticket items, right? Some of them.
Yeah.
So that would be a challenge. But for lead market, they can access the capital market, they can access funds primarily at the initial stages of the IPO. It's not big, maybe around 5 to 10 million.
Yeah,
5 to 10 million size of funds raised, but that's dependent on the number of shares. If your percentage increases, the amount goes up. So there is an option for the promoters to decide what quantum do I want to dilute. Dilution is a thing that, in the mind of a lot of businessmen, it is really, really a misconception. Because why? If you have got a company, you do have investors, you're shareholders, right? Some shareholders may not be your family members, could be some friends or otherwise. You're still accountable to them. You still have to inform them how you're doing. Okay? With the LIP platform, it's the same thing. As long as they're doing proper businesses, it's no issue.
Yeah.
I mean, of course, must be legal businesses, of course. Yeah. So I believe the LIP is a very good platform for people, for SMEs who wants to embark on this journey of capital markets.
Okay, and speaking on that, I mean, is this again? Some of the promoters may say, "Hey, this is an opportunity for me to cash out." Potentially. I assume no, but just like to hear what you think. Because you mentioned 10% and so on, but I don't think it's an opportunity to cash out, right? It's more of an opportunity to grow your business and get the capital needed to grow it. But love to hear what your thoughts are, because I think many people look at when you look at listing, people get excited because they get this notion that, oh, it means I can cash out. Go ahead,
We
Wong.
all want to cash out, right? No,
At some point,
not a platform for cash out because you'll be under moratorium. The major shareholders cannot sell for the next 3 years. Okay, if they want to dilute themselves, they can dilute themselves, but they still have to be in. So it's not a cash out. And I think it's a misconception of all businesses. I want to cash out because once you've gotten the lead, you've got a platform that you can grow to a very sizable company. your valuation will increase. Okay, and later on, once you've done all these, get transferred to or promoted to ace or main, that's where your value is, not now. As a cerebral heart, there's no value, relative value. At the lead market, you have increased of value, but it's not optimized. So I believe they should stay on. And honestly, from WYNCORP perspective, if you want to cash out, we won't take it because it will be a risk to the investors. Yeah.
Got it. Got it.
So
And how
maybe
big
Roshan, maybe
yes,
Roshan,
sorry.
to develop this point a little bit, and it's worth people hearing out on from Wong on this. Actually, one of the things that we've had some misgivings about bankers on this show, but remember, if you're listed, your accounts are better. You've raised new equity, which actually allows you to leverage more up, right? So proper accounts brings credibility. It's not only that I think, at least on the main boards, and maybe Wong can. That's definitely on the main board getting listed. Of course, you don't have to give your guarantee and so on, but it actually helps with the financing because when they look at the counterparty risk, bankers give value to a listed company because it's a lot more transparent. There's greater disclosure, etc. The board, etc. and so on. So it actually is a more credible borrowing vehicle. Now, I'm not sure where that goes with LEAP. But maybe we'll hear Wong, who's the expert on this, to give us his view on in terms of that, in terms of dealing with bankers and raising, having a multiplier effect from the new equity that's raised.
Okay, right. Thanks, Ravi. Coming back about the bankers' perception, if you're cerebral heart, the bankers are very worried because everything else is not shown. From a lead perspective, you are transparent. You have shown your potential to grow. Sorry, I need to get some drink water.
Yeah, go ahead.
Ravi, while Wong takes a quick break, maybe you can quickly summarize for us, in terms of what your thoughts are in the lead market and why you think this is a good avenue for SMEs to explore. We'll get into. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I'll tell you frankly, Roshan. I think it's tough enough to raise money through bankers, right? That's even with security, right? To sell your shares is not easy. It's really a lot of trust and so on. Here, you got somebody like Wong, who's an expert, who can represent you, go out and talk to investors and raise money. Yeah, that's a huge benefit. And in the end of the day, there's a whole world of difference between equity and this one. Yes, Wong's correct. You have a responsibility to your shareholders, but you don't have to. There's no repayment obligations, and that's major. That means we go in together to make profits with the shareholders, right? You're bringing in people who have a long-term view of capital, go in with you to make profits as opposed to a bank loan. So I think that's a big thing that it really provides a platform. If you ask me, if you got thousands of SMEs in Malaysia or hundreds of thousands, 36 sounds like a very small number to me. And perhaps we've been unique in, quite unique in, I'm not sure absolutely unique, but I've not heard of many. I used to work in the stock exchange. I've not heard of many exchanges similar to, or markets similar to this around the world. So here's a great platform. The regulators, etc., have gone out and made it happen. I know this corporate finance community is out there helping SMEs. So I think it's a great platform, and we've got the right person to talk about it today.
Yep. And well, just curious on how much can be raised. I mean, what kind of financing are we talking here? In terms of what kind of size of funds that can be raised? Typically, of the 36 companies, or what kind of money are we looking at this point for SMEs like this?
Okay, of the 36 company it ranges because some of them sells bigger percentage of shares, so they raise more. But I would say this in generic form, about 5 to 8 million. It's not meant to raise 50 million, 100 million. Okay. If you want to do that, your profitability, your company must be sizable to do that.
Sizable, yeah.
Even if you go to a bank, it's the same.
Yeah.
Yeah. You want to get big capital or big loans, you must be sizable. So this is a platform whereby you demonstrate your potential, transparency, governance, everything else, so that at least the bank who lends to this company knows that this is being monitored by regulators. Yeah.
Got it.
So that
And
is the
tech
advantage of it.
companies,
Yeah,
tech
to go
tech
back to what
companies,
Ravi
you know,
said is very true. Yeah.
yeah, go ahead, go ahead.
Sorry, you
Sorry,
were
you.
Tech
asking
companies,
tech
yeah,
companies.
like what I said, there's no restriction as okay. There's no restriction in what company can be listed in the lead market. Potential, okay, robust growth. That's it. I would say that because
Okay.
at the end of the day, anyone who goes business would be a viable business, okay, unless something that's not that white. Yeah. So
Yeah.
Okay.
well,
I think
you
I
know,
think in this market you should be. I know there are people struggling, and that was last week's shows. As you know, as businesses change to the shift in the way business is done following the pandemic. I mean, it's not. It's I don't like the word new normal, but it's just a major shock to the way the world's economy is going to take place. In fact, I think you're looking at for the first time, people are talking now about inflation and robust growth going forward. Not because that you can go out and do certain things, but I think there's just so much more consumption in the world going forward. But that means there are lots of business. We talk about the dark, the bleaker side of things. The joblessness and so on. But there's also the whole side of growth and new stuff's going to happen. And I think people should be, if you're talking about growth, if you can't reach the ACE market and you can't read the first board, this is something. Would you say, Wong, that if you are looking for growth, this is definitely should be on your radar screen?
I believe. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yeah,
we can.
yeah,
Can you hear
go
me?
ahead.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
This is definitely a platform that all SMEs should consider because you should
Yeah.
know that the actual GDP of Malaysia, 80-90% of it is contributed by SMEs primarily. Okay. And although you can't get to A's or main, but being listed in lead, you're heading towards that direction.
Yeah.
You're not saying that, I've got to wait. And maybe because I'm getting a bit older, I don't believe in waiting. I believe that for business entrepreneur, the moment you feel that you can embark on a capital market journey, do so. Don't hesitate. Okay. The misconception about and the myth about losing control is not true. You must get a good advisor who will advise you how to structure it so they don't lose control.
Yeah.
And honestly speaking, I believe we are the only one in ASEAN, I think.
Yeah, I've not heard of any either.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
Of anything.
I
Just
I want
something.
to. Yeah. So
Sorry.
I want to just tag in a bit because when we talk about listing and we talk about this exercise, like putting yourself and going public to some extent, there's a concept that most entrepreneurs or SME business owners think it's an expensive affair. It's going to be a tedious affair. It's going to be it's going to take a long time, and the process is tedious, and it's going to cost a bomb. How much does it cost to be listed? What's the process in terms of timing? Maybe you can enlighten us a little bit because that's always going to be a big pushback from most SME business owners, where they get worried about listing, so to say.
Well, I thought I would try and everything, of course. But anyway, leave that. Your listing on the ACE and main market is a long journey. Somebody would tell you that it takes a short time, but I can reassure you and rest assure you that it's not. It take you between 12 months to 18 months to list on ACE and main. In the lead market, again, depending on how ready you are, it can be 6 months. It can be shorter. But again, I would qualify that by saying your readiness. If you have everything is okay, I would say within 6 months it can be done. Now, as far as cost is concerned, if you go for ACE or main, you need to have engaged investment bankers or universal brokers to do the application, all that thing, and that's expensive. Okay, so I would say that the entire cost for ACE or main could be in the region like what I mentioned earlier, 4, 5, 6 million. Okay, that's why you need to be raising sizable funds for it. In the lead market, which is with the initiative of Bursa and regulators, they say that no, whoever comes in to advise lead listing cannot kill it. So we have to actually coordinate with all the advisors to ensure that we keep the cost to 1 million and below. okay, for advisory. In terms of placement, of course, the placement fees could be higher because it's limited access to niche group investors. So that could be that a little bit more expensive. But in actual fact, I would say this in general, the cost should be under $1 million for lead markets. And for the companies who wants to go for the listing, I don't believe they should worry about it because you're actually using other people's money, raising funds to pay for it.
Okay.
Okay, so that has covered your expenses. Maybe in terms of timing, you may have to pay some first, but
Yep.
at the end you're getting back.
Yep. And you know, I guess another question would be, you know, I may be looking for a strategic investor or an anchor investor in the listing process, and you know, if I get these, you know, I mean, who will be some of these investors that are in the lead market? You know, well, what kind of subscribers would there be? And would there be an opportunity to go directly to some of these guys and build upon some of these guys that we get access to, you know, in the process?
You can. There are institutional investors, okay, that will come in. But of course, one has to be mindful that your percentage holding cannot be must be below 5%, even if you don't qualify as public.
Okay.
There are also high net worth business people who feels that they want to collaborate with the company
Yep.
along the way. So these are some of the people that you can have as investors.
And you will get access to them, right? I mean, as a subscribers to your shares, you will get access to these guys, right?
Yes, we
Essentially.
do. We do.
And Wong, if I'm looking to invest in one of these lead markets, what would your advice be? You know, in looking at it, what size and what kind of involvement must I have if I'm going to make an investment in? I mean, let's always to talk about the company side. I think Roshan's got enough wealthy guys listening to this show from time to time. So, from their perspective, you know, when you're doing one of these listings, what would you say to those guys?
Choose your company.
Yeah.
Choose the right fit. You must also assess your individual risk appetite. Okay,
Yeah.
because I would be kidding you if I say that, you know, investing any investments for that matter, there's always a risk element. Okay, the quantum you want to go inside that, you may want to ponder the affordability. I want to gear up to invest, of course.
Yeah.
But we spend money. But I like what you said, Ravi. There are a lot of rich people out there.
Yeah.
Okay, so these are opportunities for people who wants to get into investment that is very transparent and they will know what's happening. Yeah, so that is the basis I would tell investors want to invest in it. Yeah,
I
And
suppose it also gives you some exposure to new stuff that's going to take place, right? I don't know if there have been any funky
yes.
new things that's been coming onto the lead market.
Oh, there's always funky new deals.
Yeah, so that's a
Yeah.
chance to get into stuff that's not
Correct,
available on
correct.
the other markets. Yeah.
Example like fintech. If you want to go to fintech, you know, globally it's very expensive, right?
Yeah.
Locally, you have an opportunity to have a larger stake at a more affordable price. But of course, you're going
Right.
to wait a bit of a few years to exit or cash in your investments. Okay.
Sounds
and,
great.
and you know, I'm curious. I mean, that because there are a lot of startups that are sort of the founders are not Malaysians, you know, that you know may look at this and say, hey, you know, is this an opportunity for me to this organization? May not necessarily be a Malaysian organization, but they may be here, and they may have presence over here. Would that be something available to them? I mean, can non-Malaysian organizations list on Leap?
Yes, you can. But the only thing one to be mindful of is that we have to take cognizance of our Malaysian legislation. Yeah. So the way to do it is that you come to Malaysia, you have a Malaysian holding company and list a Malaysian holding company.
I see.
At least
So
you
the
know that
company
this is
must be
yes.
the company must be Malaysian, like a
The listed
Sdn Bhd or
entity must
something.
be Malaysian. Yeah.
I see. But the ownership doesn't need to be Malaysian
No,
in the
no,
okay, okay. Oh,
no.
that's very interesting. Okay, okay,
Yeah.
okay. So essentially, it's open up to pretty much everybody out there to be able to participate in this.
It's meant to be a global reach. It's not meant to be domestic. Yeah. Over time, because of this borderless economy that we have, Malaysia is not big enough. The world should be the playing field moving forward.
Mm. Yep. Okay. Ravi, any other thoughts?
I think the
Questions you
other
have?
thing is, I think you're right. I think there's a hell of a lot of liquidity out there. It just
Yes.
tapping it correctly is the challenge, and part of it is these type of programs that we actually talk about. The opportunities out there. I mean, even for me, it's been an eye opener in terms of what's doing there. And when you talk about a cost of R1 million to get something which is unlisted, that's just uncanny. Yeah. I mean, when you talk in the US, it's 5 to 10% of $1 billion deal, right? That's 50 million US for a listing, right? And we're talking about R1 million for 250,000. And there's no limit to where these companies can go. What's the largest market cap you're seeing on Leap at the moment?
Close to 100.
Close to
100
100 million.
100 million ringgit.
Shit, Yeah.
Depends on
Yep.
size.
So, yeah.
Overall, on
So-
average, I think would be about 40.
Fantastic.
Okay, that's
For
interesting.
SME to raise money. And I think the point that I will also remind everybody is that multiplier, it's not like he said, I would say very clear, other people's money, key point. And then the second round of other people's money is the opportunity to then go back to the bankers and raise further funds. So it actually leads a nice part to growth. And eventually, like I think Wong was suggesting, if you can get to the ACE market or the main board eventually, then I think the regulators also be much more comfortable. Would you say? I mean, this is not something that's been done yet, but I think it's in our experience as corporate finance advisors, I think the regulators will take some comfort. It's been it's
Correct.
It's followed listing and so on. So if you're really looking at the cashing out thing, I think it's a step in that direction. Would you say so, Wong?
In the long run, yes. Not in the short
the
time.
long run. Not in the short
Yeah.
run, but the long run is definitely in the right direction.
Yep.
Correct.
We're gonna just take a very quick a break. We're gonna come back in a second and continue this conversation and wrap it up with a couple of key insights on the lead market. But Nicole, progress brought to you by Nicole. So 30 seconds. Let's watch something in Hokkien. A language that is not really used much on Nicole. So here goes.
Jackie 啊，你有捌聽啲咧叫 app 叫 Nicole 咯？
Nicole 是做乜？
唔是啦，我教你講 app 啦嘛。嘅你看啲 Nicole 你看，伊加了後真正是 article、podcast、courses 嘅啊。我教你講啊，你愛變好名，你愛好名，
愛好名啊，定啲
你愛吞類無？
吞這類咯。
啊，所以啊，你特別用 Nicole，真係
是喎
你睇啦，你看伊 article 嘅了，睇啦，你變真搞嘅，知無？
唔嘢無，嚟我看
有
啲。
影你看啲 article 看按照好名，按照吞這類，哇！呀，你睇。
你一個看，可能咪真嚟做搞。
有啦，教你講你嘛，你咪聽，當見到特別去看，特別看個了，
啊
睇個了，
你講你這邊搞啦我
OK，好，你先好都來。
Welcome back to Rethinking Balance Sheets. Today, Ravi Navaratnam joins us with Wong Yoke Ngen. Bit of Hokkien. You speak Hokkien, Wong?
No, I don't.
No, so okay. but that's okay. So if you want to join the Nicole community, we have a Rethinking Balance Sheets community on Nicole. We also have a parenting community, a youth community, a whole bunch of communities, plus Netflix-like learning capabilities that you can learn on everything from finance to HR to everything else. So I see Andrew says brilliant advert on Nicole. Thank you, Andrew. And now's a good time for all of you, Andrew and others. I think there are a couple of LinkedIn users are saying we're listening in. Great for future reference. So maybe that's Wong. Maybe that's something a possible SME that's looking to come to you
Definitely.
for listing on Leap. So tell us, maybe as we wrap this up, tell us a bit about the process.
Maybe Roshan, before I enter, there's something that just came to my mind. If you give me a second.
Sure.
I think one of the things that maybe Wong can talk about is, we talked about, incentive. You talked about HR, and that just set a light bulb in my mind. What would you say is Leap a platform for an ESOP scheme to actually get employee ownership into the company? Is that allowed, or is there a way you can structure through a trust or something around that?
Yes, you are allowed. One of the key points one should note is the employees have been with you for a long time. You should reward them with loyalty and at least a sense of ownership. All right. So having a listed company, you can have ESOS, yeah, register it. You can have even a trust scheme for the employees. These are it's the same as main market and ACE market. There's no difference. Yeah, we all governed under the jurisdiction of the Malaysian legislation, so it should be okay to do it.
That's fantastic. If you compare with a Sendirian Berhad, if you gave me a shares in a Sendirian Berhad when I'm an employee, there's no exit, right? So if you put it in a trust for me through a lead market, at least
Correct.
I can see the price.
And you can exit, right? I mean, you can sell, you can buy and sell markets.
You can
it
sell,
is, right?
You can sell.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are lead market companies who has used the PLC to give shares to, not give them, I mean, to get the employees to subscribe for shares, because that will lock them in, or at least more importantly, a sense of ownership.
Yeah. Tremendous.
Yep. No, sounds interesting. So tell us a bit about what, if there's SME out there is interested to explore, what should they be thinking about? What are the next steps?
Okay, I would say this. Generally, when we do a proposal or a lead market listing, the SME should approach the corporate finance advisors or whichever the advisors are. Come see us, talk about it. Okay, then you will know which direction you need to go. Bearing in mind that the actual process of listing for lead market is no different from the process of listing on an ACE or main. There must be transparency. They will go through a due diligence and whatever is required. The only difference here is this: they do not need to issue a prospectus. Okay, they only issue an information memorandum that needs to be registered with SE and everything else. So that's the only thing that you need, as a SEM. So come to see an advisor, get the proper advice. Yeah. Expectations, be real about expectations. Yeah. Don't think you come, talk about the lead listing, you can raise 100 million. It's not going to happen unless you have a lot of profitability. Yeah. So I would advise whoever wants to do it, go see an investor. Hopefully my company, but anyway.
Yep, and it's their WYNCORP Advisory, right? So that's how they reach out to you, right? So I think, and your LinkedIn also, right? So they can, you can look out for Wong Yoke Ngen and Managing Director of WYNCORP Advisory. So let me just as we wrap up, what sort of advice or what sort of final thoughts, what sort of input would you like to give our viewers out there in regards to this whole concept of LEAP and the possibilities that are out there for all of us SMEs, right, that are struggling, looking for funding and looking to grow, looking to scale, and looking to upsize ourselves,
Okay, my final thoughts is this: if you look in the IPO market currently, it's expanding, not only in Malaysia but globally. I believe a lot of entrepreneur has suddenly discovered that they can get values from listing. Okay, you may not be able to list on the main or ACE, but do seriously think about listing on LEAP. Yeah, don't worry about the liquidity that is currently there. I am sure the regulators and authorities will come in with some thoughts on liquidity. But having said all that, if you're a Sendirian Berhad, what liquidity is there? So this is even better than the Sendirian Berhad. Okay. Don't be scared or be fearful that you have to show your financial figures to the public. If you are a true blue entrepreneur, businessman, SME, take that step. Yeah, think of LEAP.
Okay. And Ravi, your final thoughts?
I take the same view of Wong. I was CIO of Bursa. In fact, I did the merger between that was when I was in PwC. I did the merger between Nasdaq and KLSE. And a single change in the regulation on the access to the market, on the distribution through the systems on Bursa as opposed to Nasdaq, the volume just increased. So I take Wong's point. The regulators don't allow things to happen immediately. So as they get more comfortable, in the future, you never know that the level for people to invest may not be at the current thresholds. It could come down. That would immediately increase liquidity. So, I think that's an advantage. It's not, I wouldn't say first mover advantage, but there is an early adopter advantage here. If you're in that industry, you're in the food industry, you've got the very large guys out there But if you go and, one of your strategic advantages let's not make it too difficult. Let's just dumb it down a little bit. But one of the benefits of it's just like a kind of having a badge, some kind of branding. I'm listed. You're not. My competitor isn't. That itself, you go to your market, you go against your competition, you have an advantage. So I would say go for that. You want to attract employees in, you say, look, come into my company. The other guy can't give shares. I can also, give shares to you. And it also tells people there outside, the third party, to the rest of the world, I've got vision. I've got, I'm looking for things higher. I'm not going to sit here as an SME for the next 50 years.
There's one more thought I got to add in, Roshan.
Sure, go ahead.
Think of ECF. If ECF and all the others B2B they have allowed public to come in, LEAP is a lot safer and better.
Yeah.
Yep. And I think the access to the investors, I think the access to potentially strategic investors will be a key differentiator. Right? I mean, you get some significant access. Whereas I think in the ECF is a lot of work that you have to do to bring your friends and family to the forefront. And then we are talking to ECF tonight at Tech Talk, where we're talking to Pitch In. So that's an alternate possibility. Wong, Ravi, really, really nice to have you here with us today. And what we will do, we will add Wong's LinkedIn address and also his email on the social media feed so that you are able to access him. And I think it's okay, right? They can just shoot you an email and say we're interested.
Yes.
Okay.
Roshan, before I forget, we've lined up some pretty good shows, both of us, and we've got somebody from Singapore on angel investment, innovation coming up. The market there is a lot bigger, a lot more sophisticated. Okay, I know this show is not just limited to Malaysia, but I think still the audience still vastly Malaysian. Great show next week from Mr. Jeratnam from Singapore to talk about who's been on the innovation committee with MIT in Singapore, etc. So we'll have a really good show, just like we had this week. Highly informative from Wong on the lead market, on innovation and angel investment, and particularly the scene in Singapore.
Fantastic. So thank you very much. Have a great weekend. It's Friday. Almost wrap up for the day. Have a great weekend, everyone. I'm very thankful. For some of you don't know, but last week I got hit by lightning with a couple of folks, and I am alive. So I mean that's I'm very thankful for that. Unfortunately, my friend next to me did not make it, but it's always good to be it's good to be alive, and it's good to be so enjoy your weekend. Have a fantastic time, everyone. And we're gonna end with a quick show, a quick 30 seconds on Nicole, and then we'll wrap it up. We'll see you guys next week, same time, same place. See you all in a bit.
Thank you.
Have a great